We're back now with Overtime with Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist, right in the middle of a brilliant soundbite on the affordability issue. I owe you one. Would you like to pick it up from there?
Well, look, what I hear from Michiganders is that they don't want to feel like they're running in place. There's a system that feels like it is rewarding the wealthiest people and the biggest companies while they struggle. You know, the people who are, when these prices go up, it is working people who feel that more than the wealthiest people. And so, like, I just think that they know that that's wrong. They know that it's unfair. And they want somebody to do something about that. They want somebody to actually solve their problems and make this system work and fix it. And so, look, I'm running for governor as someone who will fight to fix that system so that people can afford to stay here in Michigan and succeed. I mean, that's grounded in my own story. Like, when I graduated from Michigan with 2 engineering degrees to be a software developer, I ended up leaving Michigan because in 2005, we didn't really have a software industry here. But like, I've done work as Lieutenant Governor to try to lay the foundation for that. The Michigan Innovation Fund, the Research and Development Tax Credit, the Small Business Venture Capital Program, that makes it possible to grow that sector. And trust me, that sector is getting more important than ever, you know, as the economy evolves and changes, and people are anxious about it. People want to know, what does this technology mean for me? What does it mean for my job today? What does it mean for my kids' job prospects? What does it mean for how we educate and prepare Michiganders for success? And I'm the only, you know, person serving in statewide elected office today, the only candidate in this race, and frankly, the only person in the country who has the experience of being an actual software developer at a time when software is eating the world, at a time when artificial intelligence is not just coming, but is here and is evolving and growing. And so I think I'm the best person who can therefore make sure that there's a human-centered approach, that technology works for us, not against us, that it creates more opportunity and possibility, not less. And we need that more than ever from our most important industries, like, you know, manufacturing, agriculture, tourism, but also to create the new industries and have Michigan lead in them, you know, because 60% of the jobs that our kids who are in school today are going to take haven't even been created yet. We need to prepare them for it.
What is your path to the Democratic nomination for governor? I mean, you've got Jocelyn Benson out there, who just seems to be soaking in all the, you know, not all of them, but many of the traditional big Democratic Party endorsements. Mike Duggan, running as an independent, of course, is getting a lot of those that would go to Democrats. In terms of the financial chase, you're running behind at this point. Can you lay out, like, how do you win this thing?
This is about people and coalition. Look, if the people of Michigan, the voters of Michigan, they're not looking for the person who is connected to the most millionaires. Like, if this is a contest about who got the most millionaires in their phone, like, that's not me. I'm connected to working people. I don't come from that world. You know, I come from a family that came up here from Alabama, where my granddaddies worked hard and the UAW members for Ford and Chrysler. You know, my parents grew up on the west side of Detroit. I don't have any politicians in my family. I don't have any, we don't have any entrepreneurs in our family. These were just working people who worked really hard to build a future for their only son. And so when I came into this, I came into somebody who then got a seat at the table, you know, as an outsider, come into Lansing, like, y'all didn't know me before I got here, but then saw how this system has worked, who it's worked for and who it's failed. And I think the Democratic voters are hungry for somebody who is now ready to make that system actually work and to fix it. So the coalition is a broad one. The coalition is about thinking about the voters that Democrats need to win. How do we mobilize young people? How do we mobilize young men in particular? It's going to take the right kind of candidate to get that to happen. So that's the work that I'm doing. That's the coalition I'm building. The fact that I've been all over the state of Michigan, I've been the only person who's created value for every single community in this state who's competing in this race. That's the argument that we're making, and that's the path forward.
Yeah. To that point, though, with, you know, this issue about not having a budget and this sense, I think, not, you know, just nationally in Michigan, that, you know, politics is broken, right? I mean, Mike Duggan is sort of playing exactly into that. And the more days without a budget and this ability to say, you know, sort of a plague on both their houses. What is your response to that? That things are broken and that both parties are unwilling or unable to work together in this moment, and that there needs to be someone that's an independent candidate?
I'll ground that in a conversation that I had with a guy in Kalamazoo, just like earlier in the spring. And he told me that what is broken, what seems to him to be broken about these politics, is that we seem to be more interested in how rich people can have more money to buy their 5th or 6th house than they are if I can get another bag of groceries. it's not working for me and working for people like me. That's what's broken. And frankly, I'll be at the table and see like who this serves and who it doesn't. These corporations and their greed, and they set the prices that people can't afford, and they need to be held accountable for that. And I think what we need to do is have people who are willing to call that out, but also have the credibility to actually do something about it. Like, I have done things that people told me was not possible because I have a different background. I'm a software developer. I'm not a lawyer. The last lieutenant governor who was governor, Bill Milliken, he also was the last person who was governor who was not a lawyer. I think like being able to be a problem solver who can fix things and look at them differently. Like, I've done that on issues that matter. We put tens of thousands of new housing units online just in the last few years. That's because I drove an investment in the community development fund that is now funding housing in an ongoing way, and we can accelerate that. So I think people are looking for someone not only who matches their energy and sees the urgency of what's broken, who it's broken for, why it's that way, and then also has the credibility to fix it for communities across the state of Michigan, and I offer that uniquely.
You talked a lot about affordability, wages, people's health care, as pressing issues you're hearing about. I didn't hear the word roads in that answer at all. Why is Lansing careening toward state government shutdown over roads right now, if that's not what is the big priority of voters?
Well, look, I think what's important is that we do need to focus on what we need for voters and for people in Michigan to know that they can afford to stay and succeed here. And like, make no mistake about it, car repairs are expensive. Car insurance is too damn expensive. Like, my car insurance has only gone up in the last 3 years. We have to do something about this, because in order for people to have a pathway to good paying jobs, in order for businesses to continue to invest and create those jobs, in order to create jobs serving that infrastructure of high-speed internet and roads and bridges and water, we're going to need to have a way to sustainably fund it. That is important, like foundational work that the public sector needs to do. It is also connected, though, to building the kinds of communities that people actually want to live in. And that starts with being able to afford to live in those communities, to be able to afford to get a house or an apartment, to be able to afford to pay for school or a training program, to be able to have jobs that are in a wide enough area of our industries in the economy so that people have options for what they want to do and pursue, and they can do that in the state of Michigan. So this is all connected. I'm just sharing, though, like what comes up top of mind in the conversations that I have with Michiganders every day.
If you had to cast a tie-breaking vote on raising the corporate income tax to fund roads, how would you vote? I
would certainly support the fact that our corporate income tax needs to be raised so that we can pay for priorities in Michigan. It needs to be raised so we can pay for education. It needs to be raised so we can do the things that Michigan needs to do to be positioned for success.
Lieutenant Governor, you're obviously know in this town that the storyline is that there's no way you can win this job. Speak to those people who believe that, or is that a false story out there?
It's absolutely false. So what I know is that the people of Michigan, and frankly, we're seeing this politically all around the country, people are hungry for somebody who's different and who will speak to them in a really direct and clear way. I don't sound like people in Lansing, so therefore the Lansing conversation doesn't make sense. But instead, what I'm doing is going directly to people and letting them know that they have an opportunity to decide who goes forward. Like, the truth is, the talkers in Lansing are not the ones who decide this election. Who decides this election are the people in the state of Michigan, in communities who are working hard every single day and want to see somebody who's ready and willing to go there, to be with them in community, to fight for them. I've spent more time in community than anybody else in the state of Michigan. And that's what we're working toward. That's the coalition we're going to build, one that is about how we make this system actually work for working people, who are the overwhelming majority of people in the state of Michigan, who've been failed by a system and are wanting to see a fixer in there to make something happen.
How did the governor break the news to you that she had chosen not to make an endorsement in the race for governor? The last 3 governors, their lieutenant governors all ran, they endorsed them. The governor decided she was just going to stay out of this. How did she tell you, and what went through your mind when she gave you that news?
Look, the governor has made a choice, and I think that that is a conversation for her to address about like what her conclusions were for making that choice. She let me know, and I said, okay, well, I appreciate the work that we're going to continue to do together, the work and the things we've gotten accomplished. She has shown absolute trust in my leadership. She's asked me to do things that are important to the people of Michigan, and I've done that and exceeded it. whether that's on, again, driving affordable housing, whether that's in helping position Michigan for the future of the economy, whether that is in leading on providing more mental health services because that system had been divested in the last 30 plus years, whether that is in leading our efforts to reform our justice system to make sure that people are held accountable and they're positioned for success. We did the most significant reforms to our jail system, restored people's driver's licenses. We did the automatic criminal record expungement program, clean slate. That's something that Lansing told me wasn't possible. They said we can't connect those data systems. The fact that 7 out of 100 people get their records cleared who are eligible for it, which means that 93 out of 100 people can't participate in this economy, have full access to civic and economic life, can't be reunited with their children, can't go to school. That's a failed system that I fixed, and now we have the most effective system of its kind in the country. That's cleared 3 million plus records. That has positioned people to get jobs and housing. Like that kind of work is something that I've been asked to lead on in partnership, and have gotten things done for people that are changing lives. I talk to people every week who will send me a picture of them at their first day at work. Will send me a new family photo that they haven't been able to take in 7 years, because they weren't able to be reunited with their children. People who showed me when they set foot at their trade school for the first time at places like the Detroit Training Center because they got their records cleared. Like that's the kind of work that I've done as part of this administration, but that's the kind of foundation we're going to lay as governor.
Speaking of sort of the work to be done, let's say you become governor. There will likely be 2 more years of a Trump presidency. There's a real conversation within the Democratic Party right now. And Governor Whitmer's name constantly comes up as one end of working with Donald Trump. She says she will work with anyone to bring things to her state. And then you've got the Gavin Newsoms who say, fight like hell. Well, no, that's what Whitmer says. Not against Trump, though. But who says, we need to fight back. Tell me, if you were governor, what your relationship with Donald Trump would look like. Is it more Whitmer? Is it more Newsom?
Like I said before, the role of the governor is to protect and advance the interests of the people of Michigan. So if I need to have a conversation with somebody, I'll have a conversation with them about making sure that we can, get jobs, that people can have a more affordable life. And what I've seen, frankly, from this administration is they've done a hell of a lot of things that are going to make Michigan less affordable, less stable. We are we're harmed by these tariffs more than any other state. The cuts to Medicaid, I think about, hospitals closing. Like one of my grandmothers had a cardiac incident and she had chest pain. And if she lived in a rural Michigan community where you already got to drive for 45 minutes to be at a hospital, and if that hospital closes, you got to drive 3 hours, she would die in the car. She's still here because the hospitals were open. And so to me, it's that we have to go and I'll have a conversation or a confrontation about when something is hurting the people of Michigan, when they're attacking our universities, gutting our healthcare system, and I'm going to confront them about that.
One last question. How many days have you been the acting governor this year?
I don't actually know. I think, and the reason I answer it like that is because, I'm doing my work every single day, and that my job is to show up for people and to show up all over the state of Michigan. And I'm going to do that whether I'm acting governor or whether I am solely lieutenant governor of the state of Michigan. So I'm not there counting it. I'm not there counting my paycheck like that. The governor has a responsibility to protect and promote our interests, like I said. And sometimes that takes her out of state. And regardless of whether she's in state or out of state, I'm going to do my job.
So would you go in the Oval Office with the president?
Pardon me?
Would you go in the Oval Office with the president?
If we need to have a confrontation or a conversation, I'll go do that.
Okay, so
I'll meet him wherever. I'll meet whoever I need to meet to be able to take it to them on behalf of the people of Michigan.
All right, so you wouldn't shut him out?
I wouldn't. Look, I will have a conversation wherever I need to have it. If that's in Michigan, if that's in Washington, if that's someplace else on somebody else's soil, whether it's a home game or a away game, I'm going to win for Michigan.
Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.